Imagine being surrounded by enemies, outnumbered and outmatched, with no way out. The tension builds and fear grips your heart as defeat seems inevitable. But then, with a single word, the impossible happens. An entire army is rendered powerless. Sounds like something out of a Hollywood blockbuster, right? Yet, this isn't fiction. It's a true story from the Bible that leaves even the skeptics in awe. Elisha, a prophet armed not with weapons but with unshakable faith, achieved the unthinkable. He blinded an entire army, not through brute force, but through divine intervention. Now, here's the kicker. This moment wasn't just about supernatural power. It was a masterclass in wisdom, mercy, and the unexpected ways God works in our lives. In a world that often glorifies revenge and strength, Elisha's actions flipped the script, offering us a radical perspective on handling conflict. Could it be that the solutions to our toughest challenges don't lie in fighting harder, but in seeing differently? Stay with me, because what unfolds next isn't just an ancient tale. It's a roadmap for living a life of faith, courage, and purpose. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the horizon, but instead of bringing comfort, they revealed a chilling sight. A vast army, equipped with glinting weapons and determined hearts, surrounded the city of Dothan. The residents, rubbing sleep from their eyes, stumbled upon a nightmare that seemed straight out of a legend. Fear gripped their hearts as they realized their vulnerability. But amid the chaos, a crucial question lingered. Was there a way out of this peril? Unbeknownst to them, the stage was set for a divine intervention like no other. Imagine waking up to the sound of alarmed whispers and hurried footsteps. That's exactly what the servant of Elisha experienced when he stepped outside and saw the Syrian army surrounding the city. His immediate reaction was pure panic, the kind that grips your chest and makes you feel like the world is caving in. "What shall we do?" he cried, turning to the only person who could offer guidance. How many times have we faced situations that seemed utterly hopeless, only to forget that help is often closer than we think? The servant's terror mirrors our own moments of despair when life feels overwhelming. It's easy to look at the odds stacked against us and assume defeat. Whether it's a daunting deadline, a financial crisis, or a health scare, the feeling of being trapped is universal. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Elisha doesn't panic. He doesn't rush to find an escape route. Instead, he prays. This alone teaches us that in moments of fear, our first response should not be to flee, but to turn inward for strength. Practical wisdom can be drawn from this moment. When you're overwhelmed, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, and say a simple prayer or affirmation that aligns with your beliefs. For instance, "I trust that this situation will resolve in my favor." These words, like Elisha's actions, can ground you amidst chaos. It's not about the size of the challenge, but the perspective you bring to it. Challenges shrink when seen through the lens of faith. Think of the servant's fear as a modern-day analogy. It's like waking up to a notification on your phone about an unexpected bill or a troubling piece of news. The initial shock can make you feel powerless. But just like Elisha reassured his servant, there's often a solution hidden in plain sight. The key is to remember that what we see isn't all there is. Have you ever considered how a shift in perspective could completely transform your approach to problems? Elisha's calmness in the face of danger is a lesson in leadership. Great leaders don't crumble under pressure, they inspire confidence. When was the last time you approached a tough situation with unwavering faith? Think about how your energy can influence those around you. A single person's composure can set the tone for an entire group, whether it's a family, a team, or a community. Interestingly, the army outside represents more than just physical danger. It symbolizes the mental battles we fight daily: anxiety, fear of failure, and the nagging voice that says we're not enough. But like Elisha, we have the power to rise above these thoughts. The question is, are we willing to trust in something greater than ourselves? Elisha's prayer wasn't just a random act. It was a deliberate decision to focus on the unseen rather than the visible. This shift from physical sight to spiritual insight is a recurring theme in the story, one that invites us to question how we perceive our own challenges. What if the obstacles in your life were actually opportunities waiting to unfold? As the tension in the city rose, so did the anticipation of what would happen next. The army seemed undefeatable, and yet Elisha's unwavering faith hinted at a resolution that no one could predict. This was more than a battle of swords. It was a clash of perspectives. And as the servant's eyes were about to be opened, Elisha, the prophet of God, had a reputation that preceded him. Known for his wisdom and unshakable connection to the divine, he was more than a man. He was a beacon of hope for Israel. Unlike kings or warriors, his strength didn't lie in physical might, but in his ability to see what others couldn't. His divine insight allowed him to predict enemy strategies, turning the tide of battles before they began. Isn't it fascinating how one person's clarity can change the course of an entire nation? The Syrian king found himself baffled time and again. Every secret plan he made was foiled as if someone were eavesdropping on his war councils. In his frustration, he accused his own men of treachery. But the truth was more profound. Elisha, through divine revelation, knew every move the enemy was about to make. Imagine the frustration of trying to outwit someone who seemed to have a direct line to the ultimate strategist. It's a reminder that true wisdom often comes from sources beyond human understanding. In today's terms, Elisha's role might be likened to that of a skilled strategist or advisor, someone whose insights cut through noise and reveal the best course of action. Think about the mentors or guides in your life. Have you ever had someone whose advice felt almost supernatural in its accuracy? This story teaches us to value such relationships and to seek wisdom that aligns with truth and purpose. Practical application of Elisha's role is simple yet powerful. Surround yourself with people who see beyond the surface. These are the mentors, friends, and advisors who challenge your perspective and guide you toward better decisions. If you're not sure where to start, consider joining a community or group that shares your values. Whether it's a faith group, a mastermind, or a book club, the right circle can make all the difference. What stands out about Elisha is his humility. Despite his extraordinary gift, he didn't use it for personal gain. Instead, he served his people selflessly. This is a call to examine how we use our own talents. Are we leveraging them for the greater good, or are we caught up in selfish ambitions? Elisha's example inspires us to channel our gifts into acts of service, leaving a legacy that outlives us. His connection with God wasn't just a private affair. It had practical implications for the entire nation. By listening to divine guidance, Elisha safeguarded Israel from disaster multiple times. This raises an interesting question. How often do we tap into our own intuition or spiritual insight to make decisions? Whether it's through prayer, meditation, or quiet reflection, the practice of seeking wisdom beyond ourselves can lead to remarkable clarity. The prophet's actions also remind us that foresight can be more valuable than brute force. In a world that often glorifies strength, Elisha demonstrated that wisdom and faith could achieve what armies could not. His life encourages us to focus on developing our inner strength, our ability to think, perceive, and trust in the unseen. Elisha's servant played a crucial role here too. Initially blinded by fear, the servant leaned on Elisha's wisdom to find peace. This dynamic is a powerful reminder of how we can guide others during their moments of doubt. Think of someone in your life who needs reassurance or direction. Could your steady faith be the anchor they're seeking? The king of Syria's frustration with Elisha eventually turned into action. He sent an army to capture the prophet, unaware that he was about to walk straight into a divine trap. This sets the stage for one of the most extraordinary moments in the Bible, where human plans are completely upended by divine intervention. And just when it seemed like Elisha might be cornered as the Syrian army marched toward Dothan, their confidence was unshaken. They believed they had Elisha cornered, a mere prophet against an entire military force. Little did they know, they were walking into a situation that would defy all logic. Elisha stood calm and resolute, knowing that his strength came not from weapons or numbers, but from a divine power that could turn the mightiest army into a group of helpless wanderers. His faith alone was the shield that would render their efforts futile. When the army surrounded the city, Elisha's servant was paralyzed with fear. But the prophet's response was remarkable. He prayed a simple yet profound prayer. "Lord, strike this army with blindness." In that instant, an entire army, poised for destruction, was rendered powerless. Imagine the chaos, soldiers fumbling, disoriented, unable to find their way. It wasn't an ordinary blindness, but a supernatural condition that left them at the mercy of the very man they sought to capture. This act of blinding an army with just one word isn't merely a display of power. It's a profound lesson in the art of restraint. Elisha could have prayed for their destruction, but instead, he chose a path that highlighted mercy and humility. It's a reminder that true strength isn't about overpowering others, but knowing how to redirect their intentions without harm. Think about your own life. When faced with adversaries or challenges, do you seek to destroy or to disarm with wisdom? On a practical level, this moment teaches us about the power of words and intentions. Just as Elisha's prayer altered reality, our words have the ability to change the atmosphere around us. Imagine walking into a tense meeting and speaking words that calm instead of escalate. Practicing phrases like, "Let's work together on this," or "I see your perspective," can act as tools of peace in our daily battles. It's not about silencing conflict, but about transforming it into collaboration. The blindness of the army can also be seen as a metaphor for the human condition. How often do we march through life, confident in our plans, only to find ourselves disoriented when things don't go as expected? Elisha's story encourages us to pause and consider whether our path aligns with a greater purpose. When was the last time you stopped to reassess your direction, seeking guidance to ensure you weren't just wandering aimlessly? Elisha didn't stop with the prayer. He took responsibility for the blinded soldiers, guiding them instead of leaving them to their fate. This is a profound lesson in leadership. True leaders don't abandon others in their moment of weakness. Think of someone you know who may be struggling or lost in their own way. Could your guidance help them find clarity? Sometimes, all it takes is a kind word or a listening ear to lead someone back to their path. The soldier's blindness also underscores a deeper truth about perspective. While they stumbled physically, many of us stumble spiritually or emotionally, blinded by fear, pride, or misunderstanding. Elisha's role in this story invites us to be the ones who see clearly, offering direction to those who can't find their way. Whether it's through mentorship, advice, or simply living as an example, our ability to see can be a beacon for others. Interestingly, Elisha didn't take advantage of the army's vulnerability. He didn't harm or humiliate them, even though they had come to capture him. This restraint speaks volumes about his character and reminds us of the importance of choosing grace over retaliation. In a world that often glorifies vengeance, his actions stand out as a powerful counterexample. How often do we have the chance to show mercy, even when we feel wronged? The narrative takes another unexpected turn as Elisha leads the blinded army to Samaria. It's a curious sight, an entire force being guided by the very man they intended to harm. This journey wasn't just physical, it was a symbolic walk toward humility and a profound lesson in divine control. And as they approached the gates of Samaria, the suspense only deepened. As the blinded Syrian army stumbled into Samaria, led by the very prophet they sought to capture, the tables had turned. They were no longer soldiers poised for battle. They were vulnerable men, entirely at the mercy of their enemies. The king of Israel, astonished by this turn of events, asked Elisha, Shall I kill them? It was a logical question, considering the circumstances, but Elisha's answer was nothing short of extraordinary. Instead of revenge, he called for mercy. Elisha's response was a masterstroke of wisdom. He told the king, "Do not kill them. Would you kill those you have captured with your own sword or bow? Set food and water before them so they may eat and drink and then go back to their master." This wasn't just an act of kindness. It was a strategic move that would resonate far beyond the battlefield. Imagine the power of such an act, transforming enemies into recipients of grace. What would happen if we extended similar kindness in our own conflicts? Practical lessons emerge here, especially in our relationships and interactions. Think about a time when someone wronged you. Was your first instinct to retaliate or to offer understanding? Elisha's actions challenge us to break the cycle of hostility. Next time you're tempted to react harshly, consider responding with unexpected kindness. For example, if a co-worker criticizes you unfairly, instead of snapping back, you might acknowledge their frustration and suggest a solution. This approach disarms conflict and fosters peace. The feast prepared for the soldiers was no ordinary meal. It was a demonstration of radical hospitality. These men, who had come to destroy, now sat at a table, breaking bread with those they intended to harm. Hospitality like this isn't just about sharing food. It's about breaking barriers. When was the last time you invited someone you disagreed with to a conversation, a meal, or even just a moment of genuine connection? Sometimes, the simplest gestures can have the most profound impact. Interestingly, this story also speaks to the power of perception. By treating the soldiers as guests rather than enemies, Elisha and the king redefined the dynamic between them. This is a reminder that how we perceive others often shapes how they perceive us. What if we saw every conflict as an opportunity to build a bridge rather than a wall? The next time you face a tense situation, try reframing it. Instead of asking, "Why is this person against me?" ask, "What can I do to understand and connect with them?" The outcome of this act of mercy was remarkable. The soldiers returned to their master, and the raids against Israel stopped. A single meal achieved what countless battles could not: peace. This underscores the transformative power of mercy. It challenges the notion that strength lies in domination, suggesting instead that it lies in restraint. In your own life, think about conflicts that could be resolved through a similar approach. Could a heartfelt conversation or an unexpected gesture of goodwill bring about the resolution you seek? Elisha's decision to spare the soldiers also teaches us about the ripple effect of our choices. His mercy didn't just impact the immediate situation, it set the tone for future relations between Israel and Syria. Similarly, our actions, whether kind or cruel, can create ripples that influence the lives of others in ways we may never fully see. This invites us to act with greater intention and compassion in all we do. The feast serves as a powerful metaphor for abundance and generosity in the face of scarcity and fear. In a world that often feels divided, what if we chose to focus on sharing what we have instead of guarding it? Think about your own resources, whether it's time, knowledge, or even a kind word, and consider how you can use them to bring people together. Small acts of generosity can have a profound impact. As the story closes, we see how mercy became a tool for lasting change. The soldiers left not as defeated enemies, but as transformed individuals. This reminds us that true victory isn't about defeating others. It's about creating a better future for everyone involved. And just when you think the story has reached its peak, it leaves us with an enduring question. What might our own lives look like if we embrace this kind of radical mercy? Now that you've journeyed through this extraordinary story of Elisha, let me ask you, how do you plan to apply these lessons to your own life? Will you choose faith over fear, like Elisha's servant who learned to see beyond the visible? Will you lean into divine wisdom, like Elisha, to navigate the challenges that seem insurmountable? Most importantly, will you embrace mercy over revenge, breaking cycles of conflict with unexpected kindness? These are not just ancient principles, they're timeless strategies for a life filled with peace, purpose, and divine alignment. Think about the challenges you're facing right now. Could it be that the answers lie not in fighting harder, but in seeing from a higher perspective? What if the next time someone wrongs you, instead of retaliating, you extended grace? Imagine the ripple effect that could have, not just in your life, but in theirs. Radical acts of faith and mercy have the power to transform situations and relationships in ways we can't always predict. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of Elisha's story resonated with you the most? Have you ever experienced a moment when choosing faith or mercy completely changed the outcome of a situation? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm sure they'll inspire others too. And if you want to keep learning about stories that deepen your faith and challenge your perspective, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Together, we'll uncover more timeless truths that can transform our lives today.